Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thanks as always for tuning in today. We have a very special episode. I think I say that all the time if you've been listening for a long time, but I am so excited and honored to have one of my greatest mentors here with us on the podcast. Her name is Cathy Heller. And if you've been a part of my coaching community for the past several months, you've been hearing me talk about how life changing knowing Cathy and having her just in my orbit and in my ear has been for me, and how it's really continued to help me shift and understand how much infinite abundance is actually available to all of us in a world where we've been so conditioned to feel like it has to feel hard, it has to feel like striving. And so, if you're a real estate agent, a mortgage lender, real estate professional, or any human being, you can probably relate to that. Like, the market's been tough the last couple of years, and I hear it all the time. I just need to, I just have to. And it just feels really heavy. And then through what I've been learning from Cathy and what I've been bringing into my own coaching as like a mirror of what I'm hearing is that it can feel really light. In fact, the more we lighten up, the easier it gets. And the more we chase joy, the more abundance finds us. And so it feels like a bit of a reverse engineering, but it is actually the path to what we all want, which is the ease and the peace. And so I found Cathy because somehow, randomly or not randomly, I stumbled upon her book this past spring, Abundant Ever After, which I highly recommend. And it's coming out on paperback on November 11th. So make sure to grab a copy. And I just started binging her podcast and then joined her high level mastermind. And it's truly been life changing. So, with no further ado, I'm just so grateful, Cathy, with your busy schedule, with your girls and your travels, that you're taking 30 minutes of your time to share with us today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for everything you just said and for being just such a way shower. You and I were talking before you hit record, and everything that you share to your own community and the way that you live your life, you're just such a walking example. You're such a great you're such a great possibility maker yourself. So it's just so fun to talk to you. And thank you for all the things you said. It's beautiful.
Well, what I appreciate about you, Cathy, is that one of the things I said after discovering your way of being, really, which is also your way of teaching, is your true embodiment of just unfiltered abundance and light. And it was as if I had been listening to the same song for years, like a lot of different teachers out there saying the same words. But then I found you, and it was like the radio station that was emitting the most clear signal. And all of a sudden, the music just became clear, and I couldn't like not feel it in my bones. Like I feel it in my bones, in my soul.
I
And
love that.
so it's so beautiful. So can you tell us a little bit of the backstory, Cathy? Like, what was it that brought you to this work that you do, which is really just what you emanate? And it's so beautiful. It's so life changing.
Thank you. Well, that's such a gorgeous way to talk about the song and then finally hearing the song. And this, I appreciate it. You're such a channel when you speak. It's so beautiful to listen to how you put words together. So for me, it was really two things. The star of the show and the co-star of the show. The star of the show was after college, I went to Jerusalem. I thought I was going to be there for just a few weeks. It was like a after college trip. And I was going to then, kind of figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I just kept, extending my trip. And I wound up studying Judaism and Kabbalah and like really looking at the universe through the eyes, through the lenses of the mystical. And I didn't want to stop because it was so soul nourishing. And I'm sure that people who've gone to India and, decided to study meditation have had the same experience, right? You like start reading Ram Dass and you're like, wait a minute, what else is there other than pursuing expanding my inner world in this way? And so for me, that experience really changed the software program that was running in my whole being, right? It was like it all made sense. It all clicked. There was something inside of me that said, this is a full body. Yes, this is all true. And you've heard me share these messages, but some of the biggest mic drop messages about that were understanding, as my teacher, Rabbi David Aaron, shared with me, that we're each a masterpiece. We are each a piece of the master. And we are someone because we're some of the one. And really coming to understand that we don't have a soul, we are a soul, right? And what does that really mean to live in alignment with your soul, right? Not with all the noise around you that says make more money, be more impressive, but what does your soul want to emanate, right? That's a big shift to really choose consciously to live that path, right? And then also through the lens of my own spiritual practice, right? I'm sure if people are studying the sutras, if they're studying the chakra system, it's different, but it's similar, right? And so the wisdom of Kabbalah and the Sphirot, which are all, there's a lot of parallels, really help you understand how to decode this gorgeous universe and the way that we're plugged into God and the infinite. And so for me, learning how this technology works, right? Learning that the deeper we go within ourselves, the more we excavate wholeness in our inner experience, the external world reflects that, right? Which makes so much sense, right? And what we're looking for is within us. What we're looking for is to have deep equanimity. What we're looking for is to emanate the light of the creator, right? And the more we do that, there's nothing to chase because it's always been inside of you, right? And the more you're a light bulb for this light to channel from within you, it's uncanny how you create the most amazing external reality, right? It's amazing how that attracts such different opportunities and you become a match to such a different experience, right? Because if your radio station is set to possibility and love, then what are you going to perceive? Love everywhere, possibility everywhere, right? And what are people going to feed from and feel from you? Love, possibility, equanimity, gratitude, right? And we get to really hone that. That's like our daily, the art of our life. It's like, that's the path. So that time I spent in that work, I've continued to do that for the last wow, I'm 46. So I was 21. So it's been a couple decades that I've been really like simmering in that study. And then after a few years, I just felt called to move to California. I had never even been to Los Angeles and I just wanted to come here. And so at 24, I came to LA from Jerusalem, which is not always the likely route. And so I was very lit up when I got here, right? My light bulb was very electric. And then there's a lot of things that happened that were really magical. But one of the things that happened, in addition to getting 2 record deals from Interscope and Atlantic Records back to back and getting dropped from each label, what also happened is I wound up studying mindfulness. And it's a funny story how that happened. I met Jim Henson's daughter, Lisa Henson. I was working on a project with her. She heard my music. We were going to create a mindfulness show for kids. And I loved the idea. And it came out of her hearing my music, but I didn't really know the study of mindfulness, even though there's aspects of that in Judaism and in Kabbalah. There's aspects of obviously presence and really making your life like an altar, right? Where every moment you're there for the sacredness of it, of course. But there's also something really beautiful about mindfulness. And so she took me to the Mindful Awareness Research Center at UCLA, which she is a benefactor of. And it opened my world to a whole different set of tools. And I studied there for several years and then worked under a teacher who gave me this certification and toolkit to teach meditation. And when I put those two things together, really clear tools for the mindful present awareness of the moment, plus the spiritual sort of quantum leap of Kabbalah, those two things together, really make your life feel like Technicolor. That is how I arrived at, where I am, which I feel that what you reflected, right, when you're like something about it felt embodied, because those are two very deep paths. And all of us might have, stumbled upon someone on Instagram who's talking about manifestation, and the words might be, interesting or provoking in some way. But if that person has not actually walked into their own spiritual becoming, then they're not quite embodying what they're saying yet, although what they're saying could still be really cool. So I think for me, I didn't even know that I was eventually going to teach it. I was just kind of for my own life path walking into it. And then totally in a circuitous manner, I wound up starting a podcast about purpose. It was really about purpose. My first show was called Don't Keep Your Day Job. And in the opening of every show, I said, you're not here to do a job, you're here to do your life's work. And God has put us all on assignment. And we each have an assignment. And that assignment could be the way we listen. That assignment could be our empathy. That assignment could be how we create art as a channel for pottery, or like everyone has a different unique Michael Jordan set of skills. And so that eventually led to me teaching people a spiritual path, when initially it was really about how do you put all your focus into the purpose, right? What gives you a tremendous amount of purpose? And I think it all goes together. That's the long and hopefully satisfying answer to your question.
No, it's amazing. And it's interesting because, like, when I read your book, and I don't even remember, usually I feel like I know someone gave it to me as a gift, or I remember who recommended it to me. I honestly don't know how it fell into my life, but I was like, if you could see the inside of the book, there are pages that I highlighted the whole entire page, and it's like with stars, and it's like, love this exclamation, underline, like, oh my God, this is speaking straight to my soul. So I like was rereading some of the highlighted sections this morning before the podcast, and one of my favorite lines, which is like circled, and it's like, I love. I'm such a nerd, but it says, you don't need to know the destination. You just need to follow your enthusiasm, follow your joy. And we talk a lot about this with, in 2020, when the world was upside down, we decided to rewrite the crazy and do a 6-month RV road trip and homeschool our kids. And I was also running a mortgage business and a podcast and a coaching business. And now I'm a homeschooling mom, right? And so I remember thinking, like, this is going to put me out of business for sure. Like, people are going to see me online. They're not going to refer me. They're just going to like peace out and go find another lender. This is going to be damaging. But at this point, I've been in the business long enough. Like, I know how to turn the faucet on when I get back. We'll figure it out. Right. And so I had to force myself into this full surrender experience because it was really important to me that my kids' experience was positive and that they needed my present energy to create a positive experience. And so that was really hard work for me as a former goal achiever and somebody who would set the alarm for 5 a.m. to do the miracle morning and like get up and check all the boxes and do everything right because we were in this little RV. I couldn't really get up before them. So I went into this beginning of this unbecoming stressed, overwhelmed, overconnected, overcommitted, and rushing. It's funny because here I was thinking, we're doing this little bucket list trip. It's probably going to put me out of business. Now, granted, the market was really booming at that time, but regardless, we ended up having this radical exponential growth in our business while I was living this bucket list experience. And when I came back, people were like, oh my God, I loved watching your trip. It was so cool seeing, like, they were drawn to the joy of it in a hard time. And so the reason I share this story is because I would love to hear from your perspective that someone hears that you don't need to know the destination, but they just went to the sales training that told them, do all these things to get all these leads, to get all these deals, to get the money, to solve your problem. And this is how you're going to do it. And you're going to control your outcome. And it's like, no, you just follow your enthusiasm, follow the joy. And that can be really triggering for someone who is really stressed or their legitimate circumstances right now are, financial stress or uncertainty, worry. And so I've been at this for a long time, and in your orbit, I kind of feel like I've learned a lot to start to practice the art of this, but how do you teach it? Like, how do you speak to someone who's hearing this and almost feeling triggered, like easier said than done, like must be nice for you. Maybe you're more positive than me. Like, I struggle. Because I know what the work can do, and I just want to leave someone with a tangible way of taking this conversation and starting to practice it in their life so they can start to feel what happens. Like, Jennifer List was on my podcast yesterday, and she's like, the more fun you have, the more money you make, F around to get paid. It's like, what does that look like? How do we really make that happen?
Well, first of all, you just gave an amazing example of it. And I just was delighted to listen to that story. It's so fun. And I'm not surprised at all. But what I was also not surprised with, because we're all, sort of unbecoming these things, when you were talking about, oh gosh, I'm going to go out on the road and people are going to drop me, it comes from a way that we buy into a certain program that the more serious we are or the more we play a certain role, that's what people want from us, right? That's really the message we get going to school and growing up around a lot of adults. That's the way they live their life, is if I can just wear a certain mask, it's almost me, then there'll be more respect for me and I'll make more money, obviously, because I will show up as this perfected version of myself. Let's say this is where I want to go with the answer to the question. Let's say it works. And let's say it does provide you with a lot of money and a house and a beach house also and all of this stuff. Is that really what someone wants? Like, really? It's really interesting because all of it, the whole question you ask is really predicated on like the outcome. If I have fun, will I really get paid? Because if I dress a certain way or live a certain way, I will get paid. But what's the payment? What do you really want from this life? What's really the riches that you want? Because we know that right now, not joking around, the average age of death is directly related to retirement. Why is that? Because if you go to the blue zones, right, these are the places that we've now discovered where people are the biggest, the groups of octogenarians, people who live most into their hundreds. We're talking about people who are 108 riding a bicycle and going home and making their own cappuccino and sitting with their kids and having quality of life till they're 113. Not like, oh, they're sick and their bones are brittle and they're hunched over. No, no. What's different about the blue zones is they're living their life till their last day. They're not running chronic illness. So let's reset the whole stage. What is the bounty? What's the riches? What do you really want? So then that redirects you to like, wait a minute. If I was choosing between this outcome of making $500,000 a year or 900,000 or 2.5 million versus I want to live my life every day, right? In the Bible, it says when Abraham dies, it says Abraham lived this many days and this many years, and these are the years that he lived, and it repeats it. And the question is asked by these sages, why does it repeat it twice? It already said it. It's because he didn't just live those years, he lived them because he was like a super meditator, right? Think about what he brought to the world, right? Oh my gosh, like this, there's such a quantum leap that happens before. If you look at the world before him and after him, major, major. But that's because he lived at the moments. We don't even scratch the surface of how much is within ourselves. And then I would ask you a different question, which is if you were to excavate within you the deepest, most inspired thought, what kind of a quantum leap is that in the money you'll make? Because if you think about the people who've made the most money, it's not from playing a certain role in chopping wood and carrying water. It's from a deep inspired download. The moment that Walt Disney saw that image, boom, that's $1 zillion business, right? That came from inspiration. It's not outside of you, it's inside of you, right? Or the moment that Steve Jobs was like, I'm in a calligraphy class and I'm looking at these beautiful letters and I'm thinking about fonts and the fonts, and that question about could fonts be more beautiful led him to could technology be beauty itself? What could technology create if the whole purpose of it was for beauty? Boom, that's the most successful company ever in history. Okay, what about the most beautiful songs that were ever written? Where did they come from, right? And so when we're living on the plane of this like really small identity, that identity feels like it's got to work really hard to just keep the status quo and try to make a little bit more and a little bit more, right? But when you dig deep inside of your being, what comes through you is something so much more resonant, so much bigger, so much more lasting. And from there, you'll either one of two things: either you'll make a way more money because ideas, right? It's ideas that people pay the most money for. It's IP, right? It's changing a perspective. It's a vision, right? JFK, it was his vision for America. Vision, where did that come from? His depth, right? He has such faith. He's such a Catholic. He's such, whatever his practices were, like he had a different level of faith. You could feel it in this man, right? So you'll either get all of that, or what will you get? You'll live the days you actually lived, because maybe your path, you could work so hard to try to make those $385,000 a year and get to the end of your life. And now you're 80 and you're sick and you're dying and you go, that wasn't even my life. I wanted to be a fisherman. I
Yeah.
wanted to learn guitar. So the question is, what does it mean to be rich? And then when you know what that means to be rich and you let go of this false idea of what it means to have money and be rich and keep it going and doggy paddling, you get something so much bigger. And so for me, what was so powerful about living in Jerusalem and then living in Los Angeles, I mean, these are very different, the radio stations are very different. The way that people are wired in Jerusalem is I want to go to sleep every night and before the sun sets, know that I got closer to my soul, right? That's why
Mm.
I'm there. Like that's the main event. Okay. And then the main event in LA is I want to be somebody, but you're not a body, you're a soul. But here it's all about the body. How can I be somebody? I'm going to look, my body's going to look great. I'm going to look great. But it's like, do you want to look great or feel great? Do you want to look
Mm.
great or do good and do great? It's so interesting. So for me, it was actually awesome to come here after that spiritual, sort of path started because then I didn't hook into that stuff. And of course, what happened, I was led to two record deals, which I, from my, past growing up, wanted that. That was on my dream list, right? And those things actually didn't happen, which was a gift. And it actually led me to something totally unexpected, which was a meeting with Lisa Henson, which brought me to mindfulness. And then it led me to something totally different, which was starting a podcast. And from starting a podcast, I wound up really just teaching this spiritual work. And because God is my CFO, because my provision comes from this infinite well of abundance that we can all plug into, we're all part of the same one, the same source, whatever you call it, it's the same, right? I'd rather live my life with that in control of the budget than like trying to fit a certain mold because that's how precious and at that's how much is required of me to keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, you totally hit the nail on the head with so many of my listeners where you said like when I can get to that place, when I can make that money, right? And then so many get to that place and they make that money and then they tell me they're so overwhelmed, they're second guessing everything. They're thinking about quitting. And it's like, but here you have this proof of concept that you are loved, you are trusted, people want to work with you. You have this beautiful gift of giving, establishing trust. Like you don't want to throw it away. You just don't want to, you just don't like this persona that you've been pretending to be to
Hmm.
achieve this external thing. Because in essence, the external thing that you're after is really about how you're going to feel. Like in the real estate world, it's like when business is slow, people are stressed out, they need to make money and they're stressed out. And they're like, once I get to that dollar amount, then I'll fill in the blanks. I'll feel relaxed, at peace, present with my loved ones. And they get to that dollar amount and they're running
Yeah.
like a chicken with their head cut off. And then they say, when things slow down, I'll come up for a breath of air. I'll be more present with my loved ones. And then they panic. And it's this like vicious cycle. But what's also interesting about what you're talking about, this whole like the truth around the infinite that's actually available. And one of the lines in your book that I loved is where you said, think of all the ways your life has already been blessed. Is this because you quote unquote figured it out ahead of time? Or was it blessed by beautiful synchronicity? And when we really sit with that and we look back to our 20-year-old self who had no clue what he or she was capable of, it's there. All the evidence is there. Like we have no clue. And if we could acknowledge that what we're really after is the feeling we imagine and the having of the thing we say we want, then we can access that feeling today. So what's the practice there to, like, I know what my practice is, but I'm curious to hear it from you. Like, what's the practice when your mind is just like so focused on everything outside of yourself and the true access to joy is available to every human being, but it feels elusive until they get there? Like, how do you reverse engineer that and let your light be the magnet, the lighthouse in the storm?
It's beautiful. Thank you for all of the ways that you shared that. Ultimately, our identity, right? Our identity is what creates our life. And we don't realize that, but of course, it's true because the only free choice we really have, right, is the meaning we make out of things. It's our perceiving. And any person you read from Viktor Frankl to Wayne Dyer, like this is the truth. There is no other way that we wind up at the answer. This is the answer. So what does that mean is when we are running a program inside of our mind and the identity is urgency, the identity is people pleasing, the identity is low standards, no boundaries, the identity is constantly racing to prove yourself, to impress. That's not you, by the way. Like the soul, like if you check in with your heart in any moment, it would just call BS on all of that. The soul, who you really are. So now the real identity is there's equanimity there, there's compassion there, there's grace, there's wisdom. And so when you live your life from that channel, from that radio station, before the mind kicks in with this old, very habitual program of this old identity, but you live your life from like, okay, who really am I? You will perceive differently and you will be received differently. That's how it works. Because if you woke up from the fog and you every single day said, I'm going to set a radio to listen before I start my day, I'm going to have a meeting with myself, with the divine as well, like, and just really listen to like, what do I need to remember today? Who really am I? What are my standards? What is a yes for me? What's a no for me? What really feels like life-giving and what really doesn't, right? What am I unbecoming that was never me anyway? And who really am I? What do I really desire from my heart? Not desire from my ego that's trying to prove myself to my father or my mother or with this old rat race. But what do I really desire? Now, when you're in that flow, the synchronicity will happen that day. Because in order for the doors to open that are the doors for you, you have to be you. But when we are being somebody else that we're not, this version of us that's trying to be impressive, this version of us that has no standards, that has no boundaries, that's very like erratic all the time and frantic and urgent, you're going to walk right past the miracle because you're in resistance. The more you tune in, that's why exactly by you going on the RV, by you just saying like, this is what lights me up. This is a yes for me. I want to pull my kids out of the school system. I want to do this. And whatever it is, that everybody has a different intuition around that for what works for them. But that's when you realize that God has made all of your appointments and everything's right on time, and it happens to me. It happens to me all the time. I mean, it just happened the other day. I mean, it literally happens to me all the time. But I was checking into this hotel on Friday and I was, the randomness of moments when you checking in at a certain day at a certain time. It was like, 1:40 in the afternoon that I was checking in to this hotel on a Friday. We get in and I'm checking in and I give my daughters the key and I say, go up to the room. I'm going to work out like a rental car. So I was talking to the concierge. And sure enough, 5 seconds later, Marianne Williamson walks into the hotel. She's checking in next to me and she looks at me and I look at her because we know each other. And she's like, Cathy Heller, this is so funny that we're here at the exact same moment. She's like, do you have time to catch up? So I'm like, yeah. So we sat on the couch for a minute. She told me she had a new granddaughter and she's going to go see her. And we like, just catching up. And she's like, I just need to tell you, she's like, your book is phenomenal. And she had written a quote for the back of my book, which was really nice. And she said to me before she got up, she's like, there are no accidents. There's no accidents. And she said, I was thinking about you. I think I needed to tell you that your work is really important. It really matters. And I thought there's no equation, there's no algorithm where I could have sat down and been like, okay, here's where I need to be to have a conversation like that with, you know what I mean? And the truth is God makes all my appointments. But like, why was I even here on that particular moment in time? Because I pulled my kids out of school. School doesn't work for me anymore. There's so much about it. It doesn't work for me and my family. I want slow mornings. I want time with them. So we moved to Florida. And as part of moving to Florida, I said to them, I want you to still get to have your time with your friends. So we'll go back every 8 weeks and you'll be with your friends for a few weeks. I thought to myself, it'd be really abundant instead of getting an Airbnb because I don't really usually like them. I'm like, we'll stay in a beautiful hotel. Now, all of that seems to someone else ridiculous. You pulled your kids out of school. It's all right on time for me. It's just uncanny when you trust in how much generosity the universe really has for you and how much provision. And all you have to do, your really only assignment is to say, what feels like a hell yes to me? And in doing that, years ago, before I started my podcast, I was working in commercial real estate for a really good guy. He's just such a deeply spiritual person and really smart. And he owned, I mean, through mortgages, like he didn't own it outright, but he had a portfolio of $1 billion in shopping centers. and he used to sell them. And, I would help him kind of sell these pieces of real estate. And I wound up quitting that job just cold turkey because I realized I came here to be in the music business. I met him in line at the Cheesecake Factory. He offered me a job. I had no business in real estate, but he thought I had a good personality. He gives me a job. I'm like on the phone with these principal investors, talking to them, really just talking to them about life, and then setting up meetings. And then next thing we know, he's like, "You are the secret sauce. Like, this is the best." And, people who have that level of high net worth, they have to diversify anyway. So they're usually buying into all kinds of investments. And he said, they're just like you. So they say to themselves, I could buy anything and I need to put this money somewhere to shelter it. But I like Cathy, so let's work with her, So like we'll give them 20 million of the money. It was just a really interesting world. And by the way, I noticed in that world working with him for 2 years that the way he made literally $1 billion was playing golf. Like he would take these people to lunch, he'd take these people to a Lakers game, and that's all we did. All we did was have really good conversation and play and enjoy time with really wealthy people. And then we would, like, 5 minutes at the end, show them, like, this is the rent roll, this is the cap rate. They'd be like, okay, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, it was a really quick decision. So that was actually really interesting. But I quit that job cold turkey because I said to him, Bob, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he was like, yeah, I knew eventually you'd do something else. And I was 26. I wound up writing music, and I wound up writing music for television shows for 10 years and had my girls, my three daughters, and I was writing songs, and I was making like three or $400,000 a year writing these songs for different TV shows and Walmart and Target and McDonald's. And it was really fun actually to crack that code. And actually, my cold calling skills in real estate helped me learn that there was nothing to be afraid of. And I would cold call ad agencies, or I would cold call Netflix or CBS. My songwriter friends were like, wait, what's that thing that you're doing? I'm like, well, it's not a music hobby, it's a music business. You got to be in business, just make the calls. So it's amazing how every step leads you to the next step, because that skill was so vital, and no one was doing that in the music business. And then I started an agency helping other artists pitch their music, because it just builds on itself. But the point of the matter is, all of that was from following the fun. And when I quit the job, it was all unknown. I didn't know if I was going to make money, but I made so much more money because I was having so much more fun. And then that led me to start a podcast. And then the podcast I thought was literally just going to be a passion project.
Me too.
And yeah, and now that show has like 55 million downloads, and I've gotten 2 book deals from it, and it's opened up it's so many doors. Anybody who I've ever thought was interesting has been on my show, whether it was John Kabat-Zinn talking about mindfulness, or Deepak Chopra. That's how I met Marianne Williamson. She came on the show. Howard Schultz from Starbucks came on the show. I mean, the whole cast of The Office has been on my show. It's just so fun, and it just keeps going, right? And it doesn't stop.
I love that you're 46, but it's like you lived here for 300 years and lived
I know.
20 lives, which, I mean, we don't have to, yeah, I can relate. I mean, little by little, I feel like my children are getting to know me better as the layers of the onion peel back to the experiences that they didn't know, like the lives I've lived. But I mean, all of this is so good. And the story of you bumping into Marianne Williamson in the hotel lobby, like literally I had tears coming down my face. I don't know if you saw me wiping my eyes, because I'm
I
just
saw
like,
that.
it's so true, the synchronicities. And it is really beautiful when you get curious about it and you become a witness to how many miracles are around you all the time. And so often we just have our head down doing what we think we're supposed to be doing, what we should be doing, those words, like they trigger me, because I'm always like, you don't have to, there are no rules. Like, you're living proof of it. I'm living proof. Like, there are no rules. But when you follow the things that light you up, it's incredible how expansive everything becomes and how much fun it can be. And I also really want to respect your time. And Cathy, I just want to tell you how much I love you. Oh gosh, I get emotional, because your book, and then your podcast, and then being a part of your community and getting access to your teaching, and also your network of amazing humans that you collaborate with that have also brought value to my life. Like, it's just opened my world in such a short amount of time to something that I feel like it's almost like you're awakening, a remembering within me of what I already knew. And now I can't unknow it. And now I
That's
have
right.
to, like, shout it from the mountaintops, So
That's right.
it's so beautiful to get to share this space with you and for my community to meet you. And if anyone is listening and you feel called to this, then highly recommend. We'll drop the links in the show notes on how to get into Cathy's world. But in the meantime, talk to us about the book release and anything else that you have that you're excited about, or how folks can find you, follow you, anything like that.
Thank you so much for everything you just said, how you said it. I feel your heart. I receive. It's so beautiful. I love the way you interview, and I love the conversation that we had so much that I'm going to ask my podcast producer. I'm going to put this on my show. I want to play part of it because you're so good at this. And I hardly ever say that. So
Thank you.
so the book has been out since December, and the new version, which is the paperback, which I personally like to have a paperback because you can bend it and take it to the beach a little bit easier. It comes out on 11/11, which was also so crazy because Simon and Schuster was not thinking about synchronicity when they gave me that date. And I said to them, "You picked that date? That's like my whole book is about synchronicity, and you picked 11/11." They're like, "Yeah, that is funny. We didn't think about it. It was just the right schedule." So of course the book came out 11. It was such a wink, like obviously, so and my dad, who passed away a year and change ago, his thing was 11/11. And so I knew when it said 11/11 that this paperback was going to be extra blessed, so that's really cool. So paperback comes out. You can get it on Barnes and Noble, Amazon, whatever, wherever you get books. And yeah, I'm really loving this community that we have, and you are in this sort of highest level of what we created, which is this place for women to like step into that identity of that like true the woman who's really living the most wealthy life. But what is that really, right? It's really the fullness of yourself. And so I think you have a link to that people could use if they want to join the community. And then we also have a membership if you want to just dip your toe in it, and you probably have a link to that also. And that's also great because that gives you like the appetizer of like beginning to taste it. And I send a 1 minute meditation every day to those members, and we do 2 calls a month to really just start getting the radio station to get really loud and clear within us so that we can start manifesting the most amazing synchronicities. It's just so fun.
It is so fun. It's so fun. It's so much, it's so light. It's so like, I don't know. The words are just like, it's juicy. It's peaceful. It's fulfillment. It's everything we think we're after, and it lives inside of us. And it is the director. Like it is the director. It's not our fear that drives us. And so many of us live our lives like where the decisions are made by the fear, where
Yeah.
we defend that limitation of our mind. And it's so incredible to be able to reverse engineer it. And I love how you referred to it one time on one of the calls as, the first thing someone does when they pick up a guitar is they tune it. And then the next day they pick up the guitar and they tune it. And you said
That's
if
right.
they're in the middle of a concert, sometimes they swap out the guitar because it's out of tune. And it's like,
That's right.
that's where the work begins. It's within us getting tuned. And we have to do it we don't have to. It's just if we want to live the most fulfilling, most beautiful, most fun
Exactly.
life, we tune every day, and we tune sometimes a
Exactly.
few times a day.
Yes, yes, it's so true, and I'm glad you remember that because it's not something to feel shamed about. It's just the way an instrument works. You need to keep tuning it. Yeah.
So make sure you check out Cathy's podcast, her community, because it's literally like you're tuning every time you listen to her. You just kind of get tuned, and it's like it's a beautiful thing. But there's many people out there that can help us, and it's our choice to decide how we want to live and how we want to feel. So thank you again, Cathy, for joining us today.
I had so much fun every second of it.
And to all my friends out there, you know how much I love and appreciate you. If this episode spoke to you, I bet there's someone in your life who needs to hear it. So please text this episode to somebody, and wherever you're consuming it, make sure to drop that 5-star review because it does help us continue to attract these amazing guests and help this content get found so more people can get on their way to building a life you don't need a vacation from. I love you so much, and I'll see you next time.